Now at 10, how city officials in Caney, Kansas are working to resolve an issue with the city's water system. Plus, a longtime Joplin hardware store now says it's closing up shop. And
the House Ways and Means Committee releases former President Trump's tax return. Some Skyler Henry on Capitol Hill with red flags the panel says it found, and reactions from the former president.
The 4 states' most watched news starts now.
one of Joplin's oldest downtown businesses will close next month. This is KOAM News at 10. I'm Dow Quick. Pearl Brothers hardware store opened in 1905. It'll officially close on January 28th. The current owner is retiring and says at the age of 67, he just can't keep up with the demanding work of a hardware store.
Thank our customers for the patronage, thank them for coming in. They've been coming in now, quite regularly and buying stuff and, appreciating the opportunity to be here.
Blue Haven Investments and Homes in Joplin has a contract to buy the building and the Pearl Brothers name. Officials say they plan to renovate the building. There's still some hope for Menards to find itself a home in Joplin. KOAM reached out to Menards on the status of the retail chain, and they wrote back, quote, "With the present economics and regulatory chaos in Washington, we've put new stores on hold pending a return or non-return to economic common sense," end quote. We then reached out to the city of Joplin, and they confirmed that building Menards is still an active project. The town of Caney, Kansas is dealing with water issues and a boil.
Obviously, when it caps over with ice, the river can't breathe, or the dam area where we draw our water from. So naturally, it just draws in whatever comes through.
Explaining the problem with the water supply in Caney, Kansas, Zellner says water samples will get to a lab on Tuesday. It takes 24 hours for results, meaning the boil order in Caney could be lifted on Wednesday. Caney residents have dealt with a lot of water issues in recent months. On September 14th, the city declared a water emergency during a shortage of water supply needed for essential uses that was during the drought. In early October, a log jam was removed from the Little Caney River. That jam put pressure on the city's water system. Then on October 18th, water was shut off to some residents for a water leak repair at 4th and Vine. On October 28th, a boil advisory was issued for the city of Caney following a water line break resulting in a drop in pressure. Let's check in with Sam Lane for our first look at the weather.
As we head towards the early part of next week, and that's going to help alleviate a little bit of the drought situation. Temperatures were near record highs yesterday, and then they fell down into the 30s, and then only in the 50s today, and now we're starting to drop into the 30s, and that's going to continue through the night, and then dropping down to about a low of 37 by tomorrow morning. Let's take a look down the lane. We're going to have a sunny Saturday and a breezy Sunday, but then storms on Monday. And what about a chill? Well, we'll talk about that in just a little bit.
See you soon. The Joplin business community joins together to prepare a memorial for 2 law officers who lost their lives in the line of duty last March. The foundation is laid for a memorial bench in honor of the late Corporal Ben Cooper and Officer Jake Reed. Last March, you'll recall, the 2 Joplin officers died after an exchange of gunfire with a suspect in the parking lot in front of the Buckle at the North Park Crossing Shopping Center. The bench has already been made by Quality Memorials with the help of some other area businesses. It'll be placed on the pedestal during a ceremony near the anniversary. The Caney Police Department is asking for the public's help in the search for a suspect in a recent felony theft case. They're searching for 43-year-old Latasha Devon Stewart, also known as Latasha Norwood. They say she tricked a cashier at Dollar General into placing more than $1,000 on a gift card on Christmas Eve. Police say she has numerous aliases and extensive criminal history in several other states for similar crimes. House Democrats in Congress have released 6 years of former President Donald Trump's tax returns. It follows a long legal battle that went all the way back to the U.S. Supreme Court. Reporter Skylar Henry is at the Capitol with the latest.
Newly publicized tax returns cover the personal and business finances of former President Donald Trump from 2015 to 2020. Congressional analysis reveals the former first family reported more losses than gains in those 6 years. Trump paid only $750 in federal taxes in 2016 and 17, and in 2020 he didn't pay anything after reporting 150 of his business entities listed negative qualified business income. That, combined with losses from previous years, allowed Trump to report $58 million in losses during his final term in office. Congress's nonpartisan Joint Committee on Taxation found multiple red flags in Trump's tax returns, including his carryover losses and deductions tied to conservation and charitable donations. They're also looking at loans to his children that could be taxable gifts. Earlier this month, the Trump Organization was found guilty of criminal tax fraud, but Trump has not personally been charged with any tax crimes.
He's being investigated, as we know, by the New York State Attorney General in this $250 million lawsuit. And there are questions about whether or not, some of the losses that he declared were fraudulent.
In a fundraising video, Trump defended his company and criticized Democrats in Congress for releasing the tax returns he fought for years to keep private.
The seizure of these confidential records was completely unconstitutional.
The Democrat-led House Ways and Means Committee voted down party lines to go public with the tax returns last week, after learning the IRS did not do the mandatory presidential audits of Trump during his first 2 years in office and never completed any audits while he served. Skylar Henry, CBS News, Capitol Hill.
The Supreme Court ruled in November that Congress had a right to Mr. Trump's taxes as part of its oversight role. Authorities today arrested a suspect in the murder of 4 Idaho students who were stabbed to death last month. They arrested 28-year-old Brian Christopher Koberger in eastern Pennsylvania. The development is the biggest in the case since the 4 women were found dead at a rental home November 9th. Authorities showed all 4 victims were likely asleep during the deadly attacks. Coming up, why Social Security recipients will see a big boost in their benefits starting next month. Plus, we'll take a look back at the top international stories of the year, including the passing of the longest-serving British monarch. Senior citizens and other Social Security recipients will start getting a larger monthly benefit in January. The 8.7% annual cost of living adjustment is aimed at helping them cope with high inflation. It is the largest increase in more than 40 years. It'll boost retirees' monthly payments by more than $140 to an average of roughly $1,827 for 2023. An estimated 80 million Americans will travel this New Year's weekend. That's according to Wallet Hub. Just under half are expected to drive to their destination. Around 360 million glasses of sparkling wine or champagne are likely to be consumed as the New Year's rung in, with 37% of Americans expected to attend parties, while 17% of Americans do not plan to celebrate at all. Russia's invasion of Ukraine topped world headlines in 2022, and the world said goodbye to Britain's Queen Elizabeth. Reporter Ian Lee takes a look back at the international stories that shaped our world this year.
War engulfed Eastern Europe when Russia invaded Ukraine in February. Millions of refugees fled their homes, while the fighting killed tens of thousands on both sides, including thousands of Ukrainian civilians. The conflict also triggered an energy crisis because of the world's dependence on Russia's oil and gas. Russia released American basketball star Brittany Griner in a high-stakes prisoner swap with the U.S. She was serving 9 years for bringing cannabis oil into the country, but the White House released Russian arms dealer Viktor Bout from a U.S. prison in exchange for her freedom. A U.S. drone strike in Afghanistan killed al-Qaeda leader Ayman al-Zawahiri, who had taken over after the killing of Osama bin Laden.
Justice has been delivered.
North Korean leader Kim Jong-un vowed to build the world's most powerful nuclear force as the country tested an unprecedented number of missiles, heightening tensions on the Korean peninsula. Japan's former Prime Minister Shinzo Abe was assassinated during a political speech. Police arrested the suspected shooter on the spot, who used a homemade gun in the killing. The Beijing Olympics went ahead, but with all the masks and COVID testing, it was far from the usual Winter Games. Later in the year, China lifted its most severe restrictions after its zero COVID strategy led to landmark protests in major cities. With tensions rising in the Holy Land, 2022 proved to be one of the deadliest years for Palestinians in the West Bank. Around 150 Palestinians were killed, along with more than 24 Israelis. An Israeli soldier killed American journalist Shireen Abu Akleh, prompting the FBI to open an investigation. In Iran, the death of a young woman in custody for breaking the country's dress code led to a deadly government crackdown on protesters. Queen Elizabeth celebrated 70 years on the British throne in June and died 3 months later. The monarch's funeral drew foreign leaders from around the world. Political turmoil in the UK led to a string of new prime ministers, which ushered in Britain's first leader of color, Rishi Sunak. Sunak joined President Biden and other world leaders in Egypt for the COP27 climate conference in November, where countries agreed to create a fund to support nations most vulnerable to climate disasters. And Mother Nature put on quite a show in 2022. The most powerful volcano in 140 years erupted off the coast of Tonga, while the land of fire and ice drew thousands of tourists as lava gushed from one of Iceland's 32 volcanoes. Ian Lee, CBS News, London.
2022 also brought devastating, deadly floods to Pakistan, putting a third of that country underwater, causing about $15 billion worth of damage. Tomorrow night on KOAM News at 10, we're going to wrap up our year in reviews with a look back at some of the most well-known people we lost in 2022. The CDC says the COVID hospitalization rate for seniors on Christmas Day reached a level not seen since last February. Public health officials are expecting a spike in COVID and other respiratory viruses like RSV and flu right around now, following last weekend's holiday gatherings. A little bit later, we're going to learn how the Boys and Girls Club of Southwest Missouri is celebrating the new year.
And we're looking at some new data coming in for the storms on Monday. I'll have all the details in your weekend forecast when we come back. Well, friends, it was a little bit cooler today than it was yesterday with that record-setting high in the lower 70s, but it was still above normal for this time of year. Let's go outside right now and take a look at Seneca, Missouri with the Indigo Sky Casino Resort. Pretty nice night down there, and pretty much nice night across the entire four-state area with temperatures starting to fall into the 30s, but it's not too bad out there. Radar right now is all clear across our area. We did have some showers earlier in southern Missouri or southern Illinois. They have now moved over into southern Indiana. This afternoon, we made it up to 53 after starting out at 36. That is, of course, above the normals of 45 and 26. Not anywhere close to that record of -9, thank goodness, back in 1983. Satellite today shows lots of clouds off to the south and east of us. We were just kind of sideswiped with that with some of the cirrus clouds. We also have some high clouds starting to spill over from the Rockies into the plains tonight. That is, of course, ahead of the next storm system that is now organizing on the west coast, causing lots of problems for those folks. Those problems won't reach here until about Monday. So in the meantime, we're going to see temperatures right now in the 30s, even down to 32 in Parsons, 31 in Iola, 41 down in Jay with an easterly wind. Now, as the winds turn around tonight out of the south, we'll start to see the temperature stopping to fall and maybe rise just a little bit. Temperatures right now are generally around 10 degrees colder tonight than they were 24 hours ago. And at least it could be worse. Let's just say that. 39 right now in Joplin with an east wind at 6. It feels like 35 because of that wind, and the dew point is 33 right now, and the pressure is currently steady. Your forecast for tonight shows those easterly winds turning around to more southerly direction by tomorrow morning, with lows in the 30s across our area with a few clouds passing by. Then as we go through the day tomorrow, temperatures should rebound pretty nicely on strong south winds, generally low 60s, maybe some mid 60s down to the south in Oklahoma. Meanwhile, upper 50s to the north. Then tomorrow night into Sunday morning, we'll start to see some clouds moving in with lows generally in the 40s across the area with south winds. And those south winds will really start to crank up on Saturday. So temperatures should jump up into the mid 60s across our area, upper 50s to the north, mid 60s down to the south. And then as we move into Monday morning, The clouds really start to move in with deeper moisture and lows generally only in the 50s for your morning temperatures. And then in the afternoon, we'll start to see those storms. All right, here's a look at the bigger picture. You can see the warm air over us over the weekend, but then here comes the storm system into the plains on Monday, generating some strong to some severe weather in our region, especially to the south. And then once that system moves by, we'll have some chilly air move in behind it, but at least it won't be below zero. We'll start to be closer to more normal conditions behind that system. Rainfall amounts are generally going to be on the light side in southeastern Kansas, heavier amounts as you go to the south and east. Look at this, almost 2.5 inches maybe for the Branson area. Around half an inch is what I'd think here in Joplin, looking at some of the latest data. All right, let's take a look at the next 7 days. 62 tomorrow, 64 Sunday, 66 on Monday down with those storms. And looking at some late data, it looks like those storms could be severe on Monday. So, of course, we'll keep an eye on that very closely all weekend long, and, of course, Monday as well. And then Monday and Tuesday, or Tuesday and Wednesday, we'll see temperatures in the 40s and 30s, which is, of course, more typical for this time of year.
Yeah, but boy, what a range of temperatures we've seen over the past
up
week,
and down,
this final
up and
week
down.
of the
Yep.
year.
Hang on to the roller coaster.
I guess so. Thanks, Sam. As the holiday draws nearer, the Boys and Girls Club of Joplin hosted a New Year's party. The event included a raffle draw, bouncing house, and live music from a DJ.
I feel like it includes a lot of people and it makes people feel safe and it's just fun. So
the holidays are really hard for a lot of people, especially our marginalized community, and that's what our group helps support is marginalized youth and families. So we try to provide free or cheap inclusive events, and this one's free.
Boys and Girls Club is at 317 Comingo Avenue in Joplin. Still ahead, tonight is the final night of the Holiday Classic Basketball Tournament at Neosho High School, and the Missouri Southern women wrap up their non-conference schedule at home against Illinois Springfield. Jacob Leonard joins us with that and more up next.
Today's the final day of the Neosho Classic at Neosho High School. On the girls' side, tournament host Wildcats have a shot at the championship today, facing Fort Smith Northside in the title game. For Neosho, it's the first championship game appearance in the Holiday Classic in 6 years. A fast start for Northside. Ariana Gooden gives it up to Cherish Blackman on the break. She lays it in. Timeout Neosho. Karis Washington. Really good tonight for Northside. Drives here, scores, and the foul. Washington scores 26. Northside holds Neosho without a field goal in the first half. Third quarter, Wildcats get something going. Becklin Garrett, nice cut. Lays it in for two. Then Malin Garrett, driving down the lane, finishes with the left. Third quarter was the best quarter for the Wildcats. It just wasn't enough to get back in it. Neosho falls 51-19 to finish as the Holiday Classic runner-up. On the boys' side, two local teams playing for third place with Neosho facing Monette. Early on, Blaine Saltzman loses the ball, collects it, hits the reverse. Monette up 2. But Neosho catches fire to close the first quarter. Kale Smith steals, gets it ahead to Isaiah Green. Green gets a team-high 15 points, go along with 10 assists. Carter Bosley also a double-double. Tough shot goes, 12 points, 10 rebounds for Bosley. Then Michael Day catches the hot hand, 3 from the right side. And late in the first, straight away for another 3. Neosho scores 21 straight in the first quarter. They're up 16 at halftime. Monette, though, not going away. Back to Saltzman for 3. Cubs got this thing to a 6-point game in the fourth. Kale Smith, though, working inside for the Wildcats. 11 points, 6 boards for Smith. Neosho holds off Monette to take third at the Classic, winning 54-41.
We're 8-2 so far, and that was one of our better wins, I think, because it would have been really easy. The last 3 years we've been in the finals of the tournament, so it would have been really easy to just kind of lay down after, huge crowds, primetime game coming in at noon, not as big a crowd, against a team that we'd already beat that's really going to want to beat us to lay down, but we didn't, and we kind of set the tone for how the game was going to be right out of the gate, and that carried us on through.
The Missouri Southern women are 11-1 coming out of the holiday break. They'll be back to the MIAA schedule on Monday, facing the Pittsburgh State Gorillas. First, though, 9th-ranked Lions finish up their non-conference schedule against Illinois Springfield. Start of the game, Amaya Johns gets the layup. She's one of 4 Lions to score in double figures tonight with 12. Haley Grant, corner 3, she scores 11, going 4 for 7 from the field. Elaine Skiles, second quarter, hits a 3, one of her 2 threes on the night. She scores 10. Before half, Mia Topping and the foul hits the ground hard, but all smiles for the Lions. They're up 52-21 at half. To the second half now, Lacey Stokes, 7 steals on the night. There's one of them. Goes the other way for the layup. She scores a team-high 14 points. All 12 players score for Southern. They dominate this one 93-47. So now Missouri Southern is 12-1 overall this season. Wow. Big one coming up on Monday at home against MIAA rival Pittsburgh State.
That could be fun. We'll be right back. Take time now to honor a local veteran. Bert Schrum served in the U.S. Army for 2 years. The prior Oklahoma native served in the Medical Corps Amphibian Unit, and we are proud to salute Technician Bert Schrum. He's a 4-state hero. Mild weather to end one year and begin another.
It is. It's going to be a great weekend with temperatures in the 60s, but then we're going to pay for it a little bit on Monday with the threat of severe weather, possible on Monday with some rain, and then it turns cooler the latter part of next week.
Think how far we've come in a week. My goodness, it was bitterly cold going into Christmas and then going into the new year.
Yeah, we go from bitter cold to springtime.
Exactly.
Like that.
Final sports note.
Big day tomorrow for K-State football. They'll face Alabama in the Sugar Bowl. That begins at 11. Of course, we'll have that covered right here tomorrow night.
Very good. Thanks for joining us tonight and throughout this year, and let's make it a great 2023.